Boys, to tonight's training. We're going to be going over some really pivotal stuff tonight, guys. So the main focus of this training tonight is if you are watching this and you actually take notes and you follow this stuff and then you go take action on what we're going to talk about, it's going to change the game and your ability to set and achieve goals. That's our subject, setting and achieving goals, and the process of doing so in a way that is principle centered so that you become the best version of yourself through our sales program and so that you reach all of your financial goals. It's really important to me that we focus on both of those things simultaneously while putting first things first with integrity and gratitude. So I think oftentimes when we talk about our sales training and we talk about our training, like why it's important, why we're the best, we tend to say things along the lines of like, oh, well, we focus on integrity and gratitude and that's why. And it almost like it doesn't matter how much money you make. My fear is that I have two fears. One, if you focus too much on the money and you don't look through the lens of integrity and gratitude, maintaining the integrity of who you are as a person deep down in your core while becoming and staying a grateful person. If you don't focus on that lens first, then you only focus on the money, then you run the risk of becoming like super corrupt in the process. And it starts gradually. You might think that that's not a bad thing, that it's a worthy goal to pursue money. And it is. But here's the thing, guys. It's like pursuing money and making that your obsession is like a gas-powered car making consuming gas its obsession. So like if a car was alive and could talk, and you talk to that car and you're like, hey, what's the best thing about your life? Like, what's your number one purpose in life? What's the thing that gets you most excited? And that gas-powered car was like, you know what gets me excited? Consuming gas. Consuming gas gets me the most excited ever. It's my only focus. That's all I care about. That's exactly what it would be like in translation to like if you went and asked a salesman, like, hey, what's your purpose? You're like, you know what? I'm just here for the summer. I'm just here for the sales season. My only purpose is to make money. That's it. I'm just trying to make as much money as possible so that I can like live a good life. It's like, that's really dangerous because one, it's just stupid. Money is to us as human beings like gas is to a car. That is actually the truth. Like, it's not just a silly analogy in the sense that money is nothing but a means to an end. It's the energy that you consume to get the things that you want. It's the energy that you consume to provide comfort for yourself and for your family. So focused on that solely, whether you're explicitly overtly saying it or not, is really dangerous, but also kind of stupid. Whereas like if you make excellence your key if you make excellence your key pursuit, and that's the purpose of your summer and your sales season is to become the best version of yourself, it has this really interesting byproduct where like you might not make like millions of dollars now, but you'll develop skills that will make it so as a byproduct of who you are over time, you'll make millions of dollars. And as you maintain your integrity, you grow in your ability to express gratitude. You grow in your ability to work hard, to make and keep commitments, to be honorable to yourself and to others. And then you layer on top of those key fundamental ways of living, those key habits. If you layer on top of that persuasion and influence, that's what makes it so that you become the best version of yourself and so that you can influence a massive amount of people. And you won't be able to help but make a ton of money. So I just find that fascinating. I've been watching a lot of and listening to, reading a lot of Simon Sinek lately. Start with Why. I'm obsessed with the 7 Habits, as you guys know. And I find it interesting that a lot of people will like over time. I've seen some people fall into the habit of questioning, the company that they're working for and saying like, yeah, but like so-and-so is offering me more money. And it's like the most stupid thing that you could do is think about making decisions based on money, because if you make decisions based on who you become, choosing to make as much money as you need to have influence on people's lives, it's just inevitable. Okay. So inevitable. I want to start with watching a little bit of Moxie U. If you guys haven't been watching the modules, I spent 100+ hours making training that is, I have not seen training that is better than this and more specialized than this. So I want to watch a couple of things with you guys right now. This for me was like, I made quantum shifts in my ability to sell because of this stuff, guys. It's not just the script that I was using. It's not just like the words that I was saying, how I was saying them, although that did have a huge, huge impact in going from, like being 200 and 300 level rep to being like a 500. And even like if I were to knock a full summer 1,000 level rep, and managing, a couple hundred people at the same time, like that stuff is really impactful. But the words were not the thing that made it so that I was selling more. It was my mindset. In fact, I was talking to Mateo the other night and I asked him, like, how much did your script play? Like, what type of sales training did you do before the summer? And he's like, you know what? I didn't do a ton more sales training than like what you had taught me the year previous. So he went from servicing like 83 accounts to he did 450 with me when I was his team leader. Our team average was 272 accounts per rep, and the majority of those reps were rookies. Did you guys hear what I just said? 272 accounts per rep, and the majority of those reps were rookies. On average, the rookies on my team made $60,000+ in 3 months' time. Not 4, 3 months' time. And if you extrapolate that out over a sales season, on average, the people on my team were making well over 6 figures in 4 months' time. That's crazy. But it wasn't necessarily because of the scripting stuff. It was because of inner game. And that's what Mateo was saying. What caused him to literally triple his total revenue serviced and make $400,000+ was inner game stuff. And as I've talked to him about this, I'm really trying to dissect his process here. As I've tried to do with many of our top reps, and as I want to do with more of them, I'm kind of repenting for not doing that more with others in the past. It's very obvious to me that the inner game and the way to set and achieve goals is the way to win, right? Because think about this, guys. So like when you show up for the summer, you're going to perform no better than who you already are. So like if you were a winner, you're going to be a winner during the summer. You'll figure it out. You don't need any training, right? If that's who you already are. But like if there's things about you right now, the way you behave, the way you respond to adversity, the way you manage stress, the way you manage your relationships in your life, if there's things about you right now that you don't like very much, the only way to show up during the summer as someone different than who you are right now is to work on what I'm talking about. And it's not actually that hard. Anyone can do it. My mission in life, guys, is to make it so that people who have no business succeeding, especially at selling, if they have no business at selling without having worked with me or our program, my goal is to make it so that anybody can sell and anybody can achieve a higher level of sales performance. But more importantly than that, it's really important so first off, it is very important for me that we beat everyone by every measurable standard. And over time, that will be the case. It may not be the case literally right this second, but like so long as I'm like willing to keep putting in the work, which I am until this happens, we're going to have the best sales averages over time, 200K PRA, and much, much more, right? But like, that's just the kind of first layer thing. We need to have high performance so that we can attract people to our program that we normally otherwise wouldn't. Although right now we are attracting the people that we want here, which is if you're here for a reason. And that's because of the core values and who we want to be as people and who we're striving to become day in and day out. What's most important to us, the things that matter most, putting first things first. But it's important that we exemplify high performance because that itself is a measure of excellence, right? And we cannot forget like the very important things about our core values and who we become as people, because those things together are what will make it so that we can actually change people's lives at mass. Like I'm talking like thousands and thousands of people. But right now we're talking about like your life and changing your life. So my guess is that if you're here, whether or not you've sold before, and especially like even team leaders right now, I mean, as I've walked around and talked to a lot of the team leaders and a lot of the directors of sales, like very few people have a statement of definite purpose. Guys, you are massively missing out. Let me repeat myself, massively missing out on sales dollars and the capital of who you will become as a person. It is so expensive for you right now emotionally and in your character to not have a statement of definite purpose, that if you only knew how much you were losing by not having a statement of definite purpose in your character, in your earnings, in who you become as people, and who you'll help, if you only knew how much you were losing, bleeding dollars and bleeding like emotional capital right now, by not having a statement of definite purpose, you'd rethink everything. You have to have a statement of definite purpose if you want to win this summer. You have to, okay? And so I'm going to talk a little bit about that today. Let me share my screen and we'll go into Moxie U. I've been watching a lot of the Moxie University statistics, guys, and I'm not so sure. Whoops, this is the wrong one. I'm not so sure that we're taking this stuff as seriously as we need to. So let's make sure that we get on Moxie U and actually take this stuff super seriously, okay? So if you go on to Moxie U, just moxieuniversity.com, sign in with your SSO. I'll show you. I'm going to try to log out here and see if it'll let me get back in. So if I just search this, that's not going to do it. Search moxieuniversity.com, and then you just click on the SSO link, and it logs you in. Then go to Foundations, okay? And the preseason checklist, in order to be ready for the summer, and really we need everybody that's signed right now to do this by January 31st, is modules 1, 3, 4, and 6. Okay, modules 1, 3, 4, and 6. What we're going to talk about today is module 4, the statement of definite purpose. So I want to watch a little bit about this, guys. I want to watch a little bit of this and comment on it a little bit, because I'm kind of like that missionary right now that if my investigators aren't keeping their commitments, then I'm just going to help them keep it with them. Okay. So I'm not exactly sure that this is really playing. I don't think that it is. Like, I don't think the sound is coming through. And so we're going to just use my mic here.
And creating them in the way that will give you the highest likelihood of being able to actually achieve them, and get you to do something like set a goal 20 to 30% higher than maybe what you even think you can, and equip yourself with the tools in order to achieve it from a goal setting standpoint. So here we go. In this video, before we go into the very specific steps where I'm like whiteboarding exactly how to do this, I want to just lay some basic ground rules for how to have the most effective affirmations, or in this case, the most effective statement of definite purpose. So we want to make sure that we're following these rules specifically. Ultimately, this will ensure that you have the highest likelihood of success, and it won't be just some far off dream, this goal, but rather something that you'll be able to get yourself to believe it might as well have already happened because of how committed it helps you become to the goal itself. Let me tell you what I mean by that. So there's a few rules that you want to follow, and I'm pulling here from Stephen Covey when he talks about habit 2 in the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. He talks about having affirmations that are in line with your values and that remind you and help you visualize who you want to be in the future. So like, the reason why this is important is because let's say I just have a bad habit of, I always sleep in, and no matter how many alarms I set in the morning, I have the habit of sleeping in. According to Stephen Covey, in order for you to get yourself to break that habit, and coming from the perspective of the first creation, in order for me to create a life for myself where I'm not bound down by that habit of, not waking up on time, let's say.
And really, as I'm thinking about this, guys, like, isn't that the thing that everyone wants, Otherwise, we're just bound by the people that we already are, right? We're tied down by the cords of like all the habits that we've sown for ourselves, how we were raised, all of that stuff. So in order for us to like loosen those chains, this is actually the way to do that. And that's why I really love the summers, because the summer is actually the way to re-script yourself. It's almost like you're building out and fabricating a simulation so that you can practice becoming the type of person that you want to be, that you actually are choosing to be, rather than just living out the person that you've always been, that you were taught to be growing up. Because you may or may not like that person. That person right now is getting the results that you have in your life. And if you haven't gotten the results that you want, or if you have and you want to get results that are much, much greater, like I'm saying here in this video, 20 to 30% higher than what you even think you're capable of. That's the idea, is like, if you can set goals and achieve goals that are 20 to 30% higher than what you even think you're capable of, you are going to have all of the tools that you'll need to unlock your potential in any other thing in life that you want. And that's why I think for me, it matters most. That's why it's so important that you really like take this stuff seriously. We'll keep watching here for a sec.
What I have to do, one of the key elements is creating a visualization that allows me to see like, well, when this thing happens, when my alarm goes off in the morning, I can choose otherwise. So how does that feel? What do I do? How do I prepare myself for that? That's exactly what an affirmation is supposed to do, or a vision statement, or a statement of definite purpose. It's supposed to get you to first in your mind, create what you want, write it on paper, and then be able to have the highest likelihood of achieving it, so that when certain situations come up, you're constantly ready for that. A good example of this is if you watch David Goggins, his story. David Goggins is he's awesome.
I love this story,
Navy
by the way.
SEALs, gone through Hell Week in buds for the Navy SEALs. He went through Hell Week 3 times. He's like the only person to ever do that. Just this excruciating experience. And he talks about the difference between Navy SEALs who ring the bell and tap out from Hell Week and Navy SEALs who make it through buds and Hell Week. There's a very specific difference between those two types of people, those that make it through Hell Week and those that don't. And what he said is the people who make it through Hell Week have a very specific visualization, and they relish being able to be in that moment because they've visualized it so many times. They've not only visualized the end, they've visualized every step of the process along the way. And those people were the ones that make it through because they had this habit before they even got into the Navy SEAL, before they even got into Hell Week. They had this habit of just visualizing it as if it had already happened, and they loved that outcome. So that's kind of what we're doing here, but we want to follow these very specific rules from Stephen Covey. And the reason I bring him up is because I think this is the most sound set of principles that you could use as your guiding star while you're creating your statement of definite purpose. So we want to make sure that we follow these rules. The first rule in creating your statement of definite purpose is it needs to be personal to you. So this goal that you're creating that we're about to talk about, it has to be personal to you. Rule number 2 is it needs to be positive. So when you create your statement, your goal statement, you're not going to say, I'm so happy and grateful that I didn't fail this summer. That's negative. It's going to be, and this is generic, obviously, right? But it's going to be.
You guys want to know a fun fact that I just learned recently as I was studying a little bit more about like psychology of influence and persuasion? So a word, so like an audible word that you say, versus a thought that you have in your head. So in your head, when you have thoughts, your mind translates them into words that you know. That's why, like, if you're studying a second language, one of the ways you know that you're starting to become fluent is if your mind starts thinking in that language, because it can then interpret the meaning, right? And words are nothing more, language is nothing more than interpreting meaning. But a fun fact that I learned is that an audible word that you say, if it's neutral or positive, it has 70 times greater impact than a word in a thought. So if your words are positive or neutral, they're 70 times greater to impact you and your script and the way you live than the thoughts that you have. But get this, if you say something negative, it has 1,000 times greater impact than a thought. So if an audible word that is negative or an audible phrase that is negative is 1,000 times greater impact than a thought does on your behaviors and your actions and your paradigms and how you view yourself. That is fascinating to me. So like, that's why it's important that you, when you're talking about your goals, you need to stop thinking about the things that you don't want and freaking start thinking about the things that you do want. Okay. And not the things that your mom wants for you or that your dad wants for you, not the things that like other people want, not the things that your manager wants for you, your team leader, the things that you actually want that are born within you, like those inklings of thought that come out where you're like, what if I could have that? And then as you're scripting that, in this statement of definite purpose is the process of scripting your goals for the summer. As you're scripting those goals, it is imperative that they're always positive. You never want to be talking about, as I'm doing right now, never. You always want to make sure that they're positive. A good example is like, I am incredibly grateful, fulfilled, happy as I'm looking back on my summer, knowing that I achieved my goal of servicing 300 accounts in my rookie summer. And this was my contract value, and this is how much money I'm making, blah, 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 blah. As opposed to negative would be, I'm so happy and grateful that I did not fall into my old ways and do whatever. And because I serviced 300 accounts, I'm so happy and grateful that I did not. I'm so thankful that finally I was able to do something that's better than what I did before. Like, that's negative, right? Instead, we're going to eliminate the negative because those have 1,000 times greater impact on our thoughts. And we're going to start talking in the neutral as if it's fact and in the positive. Okay.
I'm so happy and grateful that I succeeded. That's positive. So you don't want to say things like, I'm so happy and grateful that I don't have a crappy family in the future. You want to say, I'm so happy and grateful that my family looks like this, and all the positive.
I'm going to fast forward here a little bit.
Making that thought emotional. As you make thoughts emotional to you, this.
Okay. This is really one of the,
having a house that looks like what.
This is really one of the parts that I want to get to is like how you make a goal become emotional to you so that you really have the highest likelihood of achieving it.
You thought the way to get that to happen from thought to physical reality is there has to be an element of emotionalization or emotionalizing, making that thought emotional. As you make thoughts emotional to you, it pulls you towards them. It makes you want to do work that you otherwise wouldn't do. So when things get hard for you, the way that you're actually going to push through the hard things to achieve these really audacious summer goals is by having emotion tied to those summer goals. If I want to, sell 300 accounts this summer or do 180,000 in revenue, if that's my goal for my rookie summer, and I don't have anything emotional tied to that goal, I'm probably not going to achieve it. However, if I can tie some emotion to that goal, like I'm doing it for my family. If I do it, if I service 300 accounts, it will allow me to, help my parents with their mortgage. It will allow me to take my brother on a vacation that he never wanted. It will allow me to pay for, missions or whatever. Like whatever is most emotional to you about the outcome of that goal, if you can tie emotion to it, it will make your likelihood of being able to achieve it so much higher. So just to recap these rules: one, your goals need to be personal. They need to be positive. They need to be present tense as if they've already happened. Because what we're going to find is if we get really good at this process, it's as if they already did. As soon as you set the goal, it might as well have already happened. The only thing standing between you and that goal is linear time. That's it. They need to be visual, number 4, and then number 5, they need to be emotional. So all of those elements, it's funny because I don't know how much of Think and Grow Rich Stephen Covey pulled from when he was writing 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. I know he studied a lot of the great literature from that time, and so I'm assuming he did read it. But what I love about this stuff is it's not about Napoleon Hill's strategy versus Stephen Covey's versus anyone else's. This is about applying true principles of the first creation in order to get good at achieving goals. And if you can copy and paste that and apply it to any other aspect of your life, again, there's nothing off limits for you. So next video, guys, we're going to go into step 1.
How about that tritonal closer at the end, boys and girls? I'm watching this, just realizing like how much these modules and like the quality content that's in here was born out of a thought and an idea, and what it turned into was really powerful. I want you guys to realize that I documented the very process that made it so Mateo would service 1,000+ accounts this summer. It's literally documented in the only reason why you won't go achieve your goals this summer is if you don't go follow the stuff that I've created. It's incredible. And I'm not the proprietor of it. I've just pulled in as much of my study as I possibly can, reading a book a month, a book a week. Sorry, it's a book a week typically, a book a week plus for the last 8-9 years. And all of the information that I could find on the fundamentals of setting and achieving goals and the process of high attainment, and doing so while becoming the best version of yourself and not losing your soul. That's why I'm doing this. That's why it's so important to me and so powerful. I want to talk a little bit about emotionalizing your goals. So as I work with people who are doing their statements of definite purpose, something kind of interesting happens. I'm going to go to this next video as I wait and then just have it pulled up and ready before we jump into it. But something really interesting happens as I work with people and help them set goals to then attempt to go achieve those goals, right? Typically, as I'm setting goals, if I'm working one-on-one with someone, whenever I start talking to them, they'll always start off with something along the lines of like, I'll say, okay, if you could have anything you want, like, what's your goal for this summer? And they'll always list like, let me see. If I ever say like, hey, what's your goal for this summer? And then they have to say like, let me just see what the revenue was. I kind of forgot. I need to go look. It's like maybe they've started setting their goals. Hopefully they just barely started. But if you don't know what your goal specifically is, it's very likely that it's not emotional to you. And you're going to be left up to who you already are as a person. And that usually, like, this job is incredibly challenging. You're going to do awesome. And like our reps make more money on average than anyone. I would bet a lot against that. No matter who's lying to you in our industry about the truth of that, I would bet a lot that is the case. That on average, I've seen all of the back end stuff. On average, I bet my reps are making more than everyone in our industry. So you're going to be fine if you don't do this process. But if you want to stop living like who you currently are and start becoming someone who is like destined for greatness, then that's like where this stuff kicks in, right? So I'll set goals with people, and then first of all, they might not know what they are, but then secondly, usually it's something along the lines of like, well, I feel like I can probably do this, right? Or like, I think that it's probably realistic for me to do this. Well, where I want to start getting with people is like, I want you to start getting in the habit of future pacing yourself in this to the end of the summer and saying, if I was putting myself at the end of the summer, what am I going to be most proud of? Okay, so let me tell you a story real fast. So I served a mission for my church in Argentina, right? And while I was in the missionary training center, which is a place they send you before you go out to serve, I had a guest teacher come in one time, and he had us write a letter to ourselves at the end of our mission. And he had us write a letter, like describing what the end of our mission would be like. Sorry, let me reverse this. I'm saying it wrong. He had us imagine we were at the end of our mission, having achieved something that we truly wanted. So he had us define what that was. And then he had us, as that person, pretend we were writing a letter back to ourselves in various different parts of our mission, various different points. So he had us write a letter back to ourselves in the MTC. So imagine, like, I put myself at the end, right? If this is the summer, I'm driving home in the summer, and I just achieved something that I'm truly proud of. I just became someone that I'm truly proud of because of my experience this year in my sales, my sales experience this year. Truly, I'm proud of the person that I became. I first need to define what that looks like. But then, and so that's what we did. We defined like what type of person we would want to be at the end. And then he had us look back as if we were that person at the end of the goal. And he had us look back and write a letter to ourselves in different occasions. So like, what's it going to be like when you really struggle to learn the language? What's it going to be like when you have someone who tells you that they don't want to follow through with what you're asking them to, and they've already said that it's going to change their life, but then they back out? What's it going to be like when you're living with a companion or someone who's like doesn't have the same values as you? What's it going to be like when you experience something really traumatic, or like you have someone at home that wants you to come home because of whatever, right? So you'd have us write a letter back to ourselves as if we were that person that we were proud to become, back to ourselves, advising us in each step of the way, along the way of achieving the goal. And that was a really profound experience to me. I've looked back on that letter with fondness. During my mission, I looked at those letters several times, and it was really interesting to me how, like, accurately, by putting myself in the role of the person who had already achieved my goals, how accurately I was able to give my current self advice on what to do in any of those situations, and how like incredibly motivating it was. I mean, if I think about it too much, I start to get really emotional, because that was a pivotal time for me where I really started to learn what it was like to set and achieve goals at a high level. That's what we're doing here. We're like creating a simulation that will make it so that if you learn nothing else with us, but you learn the ability to set and achieve goals in this way, you will be able to pick and choose anything and everything you want in life. And the only problem that you'll have is that you'll need to make sure you choose the right things so that you don't become the type of person who you're not proud of. So that's what we're looking at, right? So future pace yourself and say, at the end of my summer, I'm on the plane ride home, or I'm driving home. What is the thing that I'm most proud of? Like, what did I accomplish that I'm most proud of? So that, when you say, what did I accomplish? What is that referring to? It's referring to your numbers goals, right? How much did you service? How much money did you make? And really think about that. But like, try to think about that in a way where you're not trying to make someone proud of you. You're trying to make you proud of yourself. So you're not trying to just make it so that you appease your team leader, or you're not trying to just make it so that you appease me or your regional or Tim if you're a director of sales, but like, what's the thing that you would be proud of? And here's my bet. My bet is, if you could put aside all of the perceptions, or what you want people to think about you, or like if you could put aside all of your own inabilities or weaknesses, you would most likely set a goal that is much higher than what you have now. If you could just put that aside for now, you would most likely set a goal that's much higher. Why? Because typically the things that inspire us, like as human beings, are the things of greatness. And so you won't actually set goals if you're trying to really do this exercise of like, what would I actually want? Like, everything else aside, what would I actually want? Typically, you're not going to do something that's like just mediocre. Nobody sets out like and says for themselves, you know what? I'm really just looking to be average this summer. That's it. Like, the thing that would make me most proud is if I was just straight up average. I don't think anyone's actually feeling that way. And if you say you are, like, check yourself, because like there's something deeper there that you deserve to have more, right? So put yourself at the end of the summer, future pace yourself, and then look back and say, like, if I could have anything, what would make me most proud about this summer? What did I accomplish that I'm most proud of, right? In the modules, I have 3 questions that I have you go through. I'm rephrasing them in a little bit of a different way. What would make me most proud, right? I picture that I'm driving home with a loved one, because when my dad picked, at the end of my first summer, my dad picked me up. And so it's helpful for me to think of like a loved one picking me up and me recounting my experience to that person, and then noticing or seeing if they notice something different in me. So that's the second question you should ask. The first question is, what did I do that I'm proud of? What did I just do that I'm proud of? And that is your numbers goals. How much did I service? How many customers did I help and serve? What revenue did I bring in for the company? How much did I make off of that revenue? What am I most proud of about my performance? Secondly, what do people notice in you that is different than when you started the summer? So like the last time that I saw, if I was doing this exercise, I would picture myself driving home with my dad, and whether it's just talking with him or like, I know actually one time, so I forgot about this. I was driving home from school once with my mom after I had started selling, and my mom hadn't seen me in a minute, right? Because I had been selling, and we were driving home. We're stopping at Moab, and we got lunch at Subway. And after I got lunch at Subway, I got like my foot long sandwich, right? And we're outside eating it before we start heading out. And I noticed that there was a homeless guy right next to the door. And so typically before the summer, or even like before my mission, I would not have bothered like even thinking about that, because I'd been like, that's their problem, like I was just kind of prideful that way. But what I did is I took my half of the sandwich that I didn't eat, and I was a hungry boy at the time, okay, lifting a lot of weights. I took half of my sandwich and I went and gave it to the person, but I didn't think anything of it. But I came back and my mom was like, "Hey, I'm so proud of you." It was like she was surprised, like that I did that, because that's not a normal thing that I would have done. That she noticed something different in me because of the priorities that I had set for myself and tried to ingrain in myself during the summer. I literally had become a different person. Someone who not only had like made money during the summer, but was trying to actively look for ways to use that money for good. So my question is, what do you want people to notice about you when you're done that's different? Do you want people to be stoked that you have a new flashy car? Or would it be more important to you? Maybe you have both, right? But would it be more important to you on the hierarchy of things that you want people to notice, how you serve people, the way you talk to them? Maybe you're more intentful with the way you listen to them. If you want to get really specific, then I highly advise you to do this: is list out our core values, and in each of those core values, list what would I like someone that I love and care about to see different in me in these core values. Integrity. Are you fully honest? If you are fully honest, how much do you actually like embellish the truth? And is that something that you want people to like admire about you or not? Is that something that's admirable? And look at that. So I'm just saying, even with integrity, you can do that, right? Gratitude. Do people notice, or do they feel that you're a grateful person? If so, why? And if not, what do you want to become in that aspect? What do you want your dad that's riding in the passenger seat with you on the way home as you're telling stories about the summer? Do you want him to notice anything about your gratitude? Because those types of those aspects in our character, we can't really hide. It's very difficult to hide those aspects. It's like Ralph Waldo Emerson says, like, what you say shouts so loudly in my ears, I can't even hear. Or sorry, who you are, what you do shouts so loudly in my ears, I can't even hear what you say. Right? Who we are, it just bleeds through. We can't hide it. So list out those core values and ask yourself, like, what would I want my dad who's sitting in the passenger seat, or my sister, or my mom, or like my grandma to notice differently about me as she spends time with me, or he spends time with me. And that's a way to like really future pace yourself and like really think about that, right? Like deeply about that. And then the last question that I have in the modules here, and you'll see this, is like, who do you want to become as a person that you yourself are proud of? And how are you going to notice that and acknowledge that? So those are kind of three ways to look at it. But in any type of achievement of goals, the way to start getting yourself emotional about the things of the future is to imagine, put yourself at the end, and then imagine that you just did something you're really proud of. What is that thing? Okay. And then, okay, so now that's like the first overarching step, right? Those three questions are under the umbrella of that step. Now, the exercise we're doing here is, how do you make these goals emotional to you? After that, the way that you make these really emotional to you is the things that you've listed out: your summer performance, who you become as a person, what you want people to notice in you, in all the categories of the core values, is to ask yourself why for each of those things. So to do this exercise where you sit down, you take some time, and you ask yourself, why do I want to service 300 accounts? Like, what's the purpose? Now, this is not an exercise to dissuade you from your goals, because fundamentally, I'm under the assumption that if our minds start conceiving of ideas, of goals, of outcomes, there's a reason for that. Like, there's something deep within us that's scratching at the surface to get out, right? And there's something deep within us that's like promoting or prompting us to be thinking about what we want based off of our who we currently are as people, our natural desires. And I think that there's part of us that like wants that to be great. And so if you think of a goal that's audacious, just because you might not believe you can do it yet, like we're going to push that aside, right? Like the best goals are when you say, you know what? It's truthful that if I could have anything I want to service 1,000 accounts. Or it's truthful that if I could have anything I want to service 300 accounts in my rookie summer. But that's scary to me. Like, I don't know why I would want that. Because I just don't believe I can. I've never done anything like that before. Don't dissuade yourself from going after the goal just because you don't believe it yet. That's the whole purpose of this exercise. What we're getting to, the end outcome, what we're getting to is your ability to now go get yourself to believe you can, convince yourself, and ingrain it so deeply within yourself that you're going to achieve these goals. So what I'm saying is, like, when you get these urges to make a goal that's like greater than what you even think is possible, and it should be, you owe it to yourself to set goals that are greater than what you think is possible, and you owe it to yourself to fight for those goals. If you get the urge to do that, it's because there is a reason behind it. Like, your mind's trying to tell you something. It's trying to tell you something, that this is the next step for you becoming who you are meant to be. And I fundamentally, truly believe that. So don't ignore it. But once you list those out, once you have your list of like who you want to become in all the aspects of the core values, what would make you most proud, right? And what did you do what did you just do that you're proud of? Once you do that, now what's left is to ask yourself why, to truly figure that out. Like, why do I actually want to do this? And do that 7 layers deep, the exercise of 7 layers deep. You can learn more about that in module 3, where I talk about creating a compelling vision for the future and how that aligns with your mission as a human being, your soul mission on earth, something that is unique to you. And if you can tie some really emotional reasons to that, like I have some really strong reasons why I'm working the way that I'm working and why I'm trying to do what I'm trying to do. And a lot of them have to do with providing my family a life that they never otherwise would have. And not just my kids and my wife. I've already done that, to where like anything I want in that regard I could have, even if I stopped working this very second. I'm talking about like other people in my family. And that's so compelling to me that like some people could take weeks off or a few days off here and there. But like, I get myself up out of bed and I work for something great because I know that I'm working for people who I love and care about. And I've tied those reasons. Some people might view those reasons, the millions of dollars, the impact, the service, they might tie those reasons to something superficial. And to them, it might be. But for me, the money signs, the dollar amounts, the houses, all that stuff, that's not like just a physical thing for me. It's tied so deeply to things that are actually truly meaningful to me in my service, my unique service and contribution to others. And like, you guys are actually a part of that, oddly enough, not oddly enough, but interestingly enough. It's so deeply tied to my unique service and contribution to others that no matter who I am at the current time, no matter who I am right now, no matter how good and capable I am of achieving my goals right now, I've convinced myself that it doesn't even matter in the current moment, because I will become that type of person. It's so worth it to me. I will become that type of person that will achieve those goals, those grand, audacious goals, because I owe it to the people I love and care about most. I've convinced myself that that's the case. And so therefore, I freaking get myself up out of bed and I go do the things that I need to do to make that happen day in and day out. And if I'm not who I need to be right now, which I'm not, then over time I will become that. And I've convinced myself of that. And whoever is here along the journey, they will be much better off than if they were doing anything else, no matter how good off they are. They think they are in the current moment. But honestly, I think everyone's much better off by being here. Like, absolutely 100% agree, or actually 100% believe that to be the case. So just to recap, guys, like, our training tonight is about the statement of definite purpose. It's, how do I get myself to set and achieve goals in an effective way? And the way that you start is look at the summer. okay? And say, put yourself at the end, do the exercise that we just talked about. And then once you have that exercise written out, go back and say, like, but why? Like, why do I want those things? Not to disregard them, rather to dig deeper into them, okay? As we're finishing up here, I got a couple of things that I want you guys to pay attention to. So I'm going to be going through the 7 habits of highly effective people. I have a friend of mine that has challenged me to rethink my assumptions on the 7 habits and just really dive deeper into them. And I'm going to be, like Stephen Covey says, the best way to learn something is to prepare to teach it to someone. So what I would do if I were you guys is go through the modules, starting with module 1, but specifically these goal setting modules in 3 and 4, and ask yourself, like, if I were going to teach someone how to do this, how would I do it? And really think through the lens of being a teacher rather than a student. And that's how you become the best student. So I'm doing that right now with the 7 habits of highly effective people. And what I decided to do was just record myself in my study. I do it really early in the morning or really late at night so it doesn't distract me from stuff. And then I usually schedule it out at a different time, so it's not necessarily going live at the time that it does go out. But I'm going to be releasing one tonight at, I think, 9 p.m. If you guys want to watch it, I'll send you the link. It's my first study of like really going through and asking myself, like, do I understand these principles that are really important? And how do I get myself to really change my outcome and my behavior? It fits really well in line with what I'm talking about tonight. So if you guys want to watch that, I'll send you the link, and it's pretty compelling stuff. So I'm just going through the 7 habits, acting like I'm the student that has to teach someone else, and then I'm just like talking about it as if I'm teaching it on camera, and just documenting that so that people can watch and follow along if they want, and just see like my own journey and my process there for myself. It's been really meaningful, super impactful, guys. So watch that, and then I have more trainings coming out with Mateo. I'm going to be spending more time doing that. Again, I really wish I would have done that in the past. We had like, I needed to go do this with Braden Searle as well, because we've had the top rep and others. We've had the top reps in the entire company come out of our sales program. And I don't know why I just started so late doing this with just Mateo, but I want to do it with more people down the road. So we've got more trainings coming out with Mateo. Selfishly, I'm going to be dissecting his pitch as well as his processes from the inner game, and we'll be releasing those as they go. But like, I need you guys to just get freaking bought in and get ready to change your lives. It's not just about the summer. It's about who you become as a person. The summer is a simulation that helps you become the best version of yourself. I fully 100% believe that. Thanks for being on this training tonight, guys. Thank you so much. If you guys like this stuff, then feel free to, one way that you can know of the kind of more public stuff that I'm releasing, that's like just my own documentation of like my journey with this meaningful self-development or personal development. You can subscribe to my channel, so consider that if you'd like. And then consider, if like this this video, and other people that watch YouTube that are not in our program, they might stumble across it and see what our training is all about. But go through the modules, guys. It's the best training that I've ever seen, and I've been around the block. Like I've consulted with the best sales trainers in the entire world. Okay. I've personally been consulted with Grant Cardone, with Jordan Belfort, and with others that are the top sales trainers in our entire industry. Excuse me, in the entire sales industry in the entire world. And our training is second to none. It's incredible. If you're not using it, you're 100% missing out, and you're bleeding capital of the things that you care about most, because who you could become and the type of money that you can make this summer. So make sure that you guys go through that stuff, and I'll see you guys in the next training. Have a good one.